Hello and welcome to the program. Ukraine's capital hosted the final stage of a nationwide sports testing as part of the selection for the Invictus Games 2020. More than 200 participants, Ukrainian veterans and service persons who were wounded, injured or got ill while performing their duties in the combat zone, took part in the national trials. The categories included running, rowing on simulators, long jump, archery, powerlifting and shot put. In May 2020, Ukraine's squad will take part in the International Invictus Games in Hague in the Netherlands. To talk more about this, we welcome to our studio today Oksana Horbach. She's the team manager at Invictus Games Ukraine. Hello and thank you for joining us. So first, for the viewers to understand some history behind the event, how many times have Ukraine already participated in the competition and for how long has this competition existed?
Invictus Game exists since 2014. It was launched by the member of royal family, Prince Harry. He's himself a military man, so he tells this story pretty many times. But the point is that he actually could follow the stories of those military men who were wounded in the combat zone and then struggled through their rehabilitation program. So he launched this sports event, Invictus Games, as a method, as a a motivation point for the wounded military man to recover both physically and mentally. That is why Invictus Games is really different from Paralympic Games or any other sport event for that matter, because sport component of it, it's kind of like a motivation. Why should we go out of our home and get to the stadium? Because we want to see something exciting. So sport is a component of it, but it's not the most important one. So it's about rehabilitation, socialization and integration of wounded servicemen and veterans. Ukraine participates since 2017, so it's already been 2 times in Toronto and Sydney. Our team of 15 members, military men and veterans, participated in Invictus Games. So this year we are in the middle of a selection process. We just finished our national trials on 14th of September, and now for the next month the selection committee will be sitting to decide who is actually be a member of Invictus Games Team Ukraine. Out of 200 they have to select 20, so it's going to be pretty hard.
Now what are the criteria for members to be selected?
That's a very important question, because criteria is quite different to the previous ones, and sport result, the performance of the competitor is only its weight is only 10%, so it's really not that important how fast or how how good the competitor is in terms of sport performance. But what is important is the rehabilitation effect that Invictus Games could potentially have on the rehabilitation, physical and mental recovery of this particular competitor. And this criteria takes 45%. The other 2 is motivation and ethics. Each of them takes 25%. So within this criteria, we want to evaluate why a competitor participates in Invictus Games. What's his motivation? Is he doing it for some money, some profits, benefits, or is he doing it because it will help his recovery and how it would help him? So we want to know more deeply what's his motivation to participate in Invictus Games, and of course ethics, because this behavior when some sportsmen could potentially be negligent to other competitors, or contrary to that be bullying each other or something, is not part of the Invictus Games values. It's not part of our what we want to achieve. It's not part of us. So we want to know that our competitors are ethical to each other, respect each other, and help each other. So that is why the selection process is not going to be easy for anyone. And it's actually started since July. From first sport events, it started in July actually. So each competitor actually had an interview with a psychologist and a veteran. Each competitor actually filled in a questionnaire answering the questions. They also, of course, passed through the medical examination, and the doctor actually established the functional category for each of them, so determining how functionally, what kind of functional boundaries they have. And of course, during the sport events, they show their sport performance, and judges actually determine what's their result. And also there are some supervisors and people who oversee the entire sport event, to notice those ethical or unethical behavior from our competitors. So for the next month, the selection committee will be sitting. I think it will be many meetings for them to determine 20 people out of 200, and it's really huge.
Now, this is the third game for Ukrainian veterans. What has changed over the past 3 years in between the first time that Ukraine participated and today?
It's the question that I get so many times recently. I understand where it comes from. We as a project team, as organizing committee, are trying our best to spread the word among competitors. So we see that veterans are getting interested in this competition in our project. And if in the first year we had a little bit over 100 competitors in national trials, this year we have more than 200. So we can see that, more veterans are getting engaged into sport rehabilitation. We actually can see that there are many other veteran organizations, non-government organizations, that are trying to organize sport events like marathons or cycling events or anything that would help, to engage into sport more veterans. I think this is a direct result of Invictus Games, because up to 2017, before Invictus Games, there was pretty much none of that. And we as organizing committee are trying to give our competitors as many opportunities to engage into sport as we possibly can. So in the first year, we were not pretty much adaptive sports. It was archery, so you can actually shoot from your wheelchair if you want to. But if we're talking about adaptive sports, you need to have an equipment that is adapted to the needs of the competitors. So this year we have it. We have wheelchair racers, and I think that's pretty much first time in the history of Ukrainian sports that two Ukrainian sportsmen, athletes, will compete in wheelchair racing. It's pretty much amazing. And also sitting cycling, a bicycle, it's also it's absolutely non-customary for our country. So shot put from the sitting position is also something that we want to introduce to our veterans, and we did it during the national trials. So what we try to do is to give them more opportunities of adaptive sports, that they can engage with, to engage as many veterans with as many possible physical injuries as we possibly can, understanding that there is still a long way for us ahead to go. So this year, what we want to do, and I think that we might even succeed in that, we can actually form the team in sitting volleyball. And that is something that we couldn't do before, because we had only 15 people in our team. And you need 12 to get the team in the sitting volleyball. And now we have 20 people in our team, so we'll do our best to form the sitting volleyball team this year and actually compete in sitting volleyball in Invictus Games Hague 2020.
Now, my understanding is that recently there has been an event with you told about Prince Harry earlier. Can you tell us more about this past event?
It was a beautiful event that was organized last week by Prince Harry to celebrate the 5th anniversary of Invictus Games. And all the nations were invited to this event. Only 5 people from each nation were allowed to come. So our goal was to take as many veterans as we possibly could. So we had 3 veterans with us who came to this event. And actually, Prince Harry selected 2 our competitors to meet with him. And this is a huge honor for us, because as I was part of that, I can tell you that not every nation is invited. Not every nation is invited, and Ukraine was invited. And I was very happy that both our competitors could share their experience with Prince Harry. He was very interested in their stories, and he asked the question about them. And he asked Maya Moskvich, who was also part of our delegation, how Invictus Games impacted her life. And she told him that after Invictus Games, she came back to her hometown, Lutsk, and organized the sport a sport camp for veterans. So she's currently having this archery camp for the veterans of Lutsk, and it was not there before, so whatsoever. We helped her to purchase the equipment that they need, the archery bows that she needed, and currently she's not only engaged into sports herself, but she's also teaching other veterans to engage into archery. And he was so happy to hear that. He said that, giving back to community is something that indicates that Invictus Games actually was successful for her. Yeah, because Invictus Games is not about the medal, it's not about being on the pedestal or getting a first or second or third place, but it's about getting the value of Invictus Games, of helping others, sharing with others your story, your experience, helping each other, and that's what she did. And he was so happy to hear that.
Which brings me to my last question here. What is the impact you told about this specific story? What is generally the feedback and the impact on the life of veterans after Invictus Games? Do they continue that? Do they continue participating in other kind of sports? What's the impact? What's the feedback that you have from these veterans?
Generally, the feedback is very positive from each member of Team Ukraine. And what we can see is that many of them, get their professional life figured out. Some of them couldn't get the job, or couldn't find their professional path after the combat, experience. It was hard for them psychologically, mentally, and after Invictus Games, after this process of training and communicating with people, with press, with a lot of people around them, an international community, and this entire experience helps them to overcome their fear, overcome something that is psychologically, for
damaged,
them. Yes. So a lot of them find their professional path. A lot of them actually establish their own businesses. So they're trying to, be entrepreneurs and earn money from their own business, which is absolutely amazing. Some of them, overcome their fear of personal relations, and we could actually see the visible, progress when, for example, one competitor would actually avoid any personal touch. We wouldn't be able to touch him at all. So he would be, looking down, not straight into your eyes. And now they are coming to our events with their girlfriends, and being able to hug and talk to press, and actually communicate easily. So a lot of them say that they stopped feeling pain, physical pain, after the injury. So, for example, back pain or muscle pain. Yes, something. So they stopped. I think this is a result of actually physical activity. A lot of them report that they sleep better, so they don't have problems with insomnia or anything of the kind. So they don't have to take pills to sleep. So, and a lot of them are trying to give back to their community. So there are guys who are trying to organize the sporting competition in their communities, in their hometowns, or camps, or any other activities to engage more veterans into that. So this is like giving back to community is like the best experience for us to ensure that, this is something that we wanted. So this is something that we wanted to achieve through Invictus Games. So this is basically kind of like Invictus Games is very much about integration, social integration of veterans back into life, back into the normal, successful life professionally, personally. And Invictus Games is doing this through a lot of communication, a lot of engagements, a lot of sport activity, and all of this ensures us that we really, as a country, need to invest more into the strategy of sport rehabilitation in our country, both for veterans and active duty servicemen, because this works. Sport has unbelievable strengths to recover people and back to life, professional or personal, and we need to do it more.
Well, thank you very much for this overview of Invictus Games and reminding about the sport rehabilitation and the need for that for veterans. It was a pleasure to have you in the studio today.
Thank you for having me.
That was Oksana Horbach, team manager at Invictus Games Ukraine. Thank you for watching the program, and stay tuned for the rest.